My dad sadly passed away in 2017. I decided to run the full length of Britain in his memory. So the summer of 2018, having only been running for just over a year, I did JOGLE, John O'Groats to Land's End, in his memory, and that was done 37 days. And just as I came towards the end of that challenge, I was having the time of my life, and I thought, you know what, I need something else to go for now. So I thought, you know what, let's go for something bigger and harder and longer. And that's when I dreamt up New Zealand in the last week of JOGLE. It became less about the running and more about the challenges that lay ahead of us each day. So it was down to, some of the roads were really dangerous. Bridges weren't pedestrian friendly, the weather, the route, traffic work. So it was all sorts. I mean, the running was a given. That was the easy part. It was all the other bits then that actually got, more difficult.
Hi, my name is Michelle Lewis. 10 years ago, you'd have been lucky to see me run to the end of the road. These days, running is second nature to me. From marathons to park runs to putting my own running group through their paces. You'll often see me in suitably loud attire, getting ready to pound the pavements. And here's a secret, if I can do it, you can too. There's so many wonderful and inspiring stories in the world of running. And not just running, some of my favourite tales involve those who take to their wheelchairs, bikes or simply their own trusty feet in an attempt to get fitter, faster or just have some fun. In this podcast, I'm going to be in conversation with some of the most inspiring and fascinating of these people. Remember, it's your time, your speed, your way. The only person you need to keep up with is yourself. Welcome to this week's Running Tales episode, and today I've got a right treat for you, and that's Menna Evans.
Hi all. Okay, so I'm Menna, and on the 1st of January of this year, I set off from the very top of New Zealand in Cape Reinga and started my run of the full length of New Zealand, both islands, North Island and South Island. And 35 days, 27 minutes later, I finished at the very bottom at Bluff, at the bottom of the South Island, and became a Guinness World Record holder for doing so, for fastest female to run the full length.
Was there a record holder before you?
There was, although I don't know exactly who it was. When you apply, at least when I applied to go for the record, I was only told of the time that I had to beat, which was 52 days. So that's all I had to go by. So yes, but that was enough.
Wow. So what training, like from when you decided to when you actually did it?
Okay, so it first started off. There's a bit of a story to the background of New Zealand. My dad sadly passed away in 2017, and I decided to run the full length of Britain in his memory. So the summer of 2018, having only been running for just over a year, I did JOGLE, John O'Groats to Land's End, in his memory, and that was done 37 days. And just as I came towards the end of that challenge, I was having the time of my life, and I thought, you know what, I need something else to go for now, because I'd been so focused and so determined and enjoyed every minute of the run up to JOGLE and JOGLE itself. So I thought, you know what, let's go for something bigger and harder and longer. And that's when I dreamt up New Zealand in the last week of JOGLE. And so when I finished JOGLE, I didn't really stop training. I just carried on. And then, as I said, January 2020, then, prior to that, I flew out to New Zealand, and that's when I started that challenge.
You only been running 1 year before JOGLE?
I'd dabbled a little bit, like 10 years before, from a non-runner. I hated running at school. It was only really sort of like my mid-20s, late 20s that I did a little bit of running, and then aimed to do a marathon. So I ended up doing London Marathon. And then because life sort of took a different direction, I stopped running. And then, so I took up running again 10 years later, as I said, for my dad, at his retirement party 6 years before he passed away, he asked me if I wanted to walk John O'Groats to Land's End with him. And so when I decided to do that in his memory, I thought, I can't walk it. Walking would just take too long.
Yeah.
So that's when I thought, I've got to run it, because I've got a young son to look after and a job. So I couldn't take too much time out. So yeah, and that's when I started running. And it's actually something that I found that my body copes with really, really well. And I actually really love the psychological aspect of it as well. Ultra running, it ticks all my boxes.
And the scenery, you must have seen some amazing scenery in both countries, UK and New Zealand.
Yes, yeah, I did. It's always been sort of a dream, really, to travel the full length of Britain. Because it hadn't really ventured further than Wales, really. So when I did a bit of traveling when I was younger, and people would be like, "So what's Scotland like? What's Ireland like?" Just be like, I have no idea.
Agree.
So I sort of up close and personal on foot. And I ran as many trails as I could through Britain. So I did like the West Highland Way in Scotland, Offa's Dyke, which runs through the Welsh-English border, and then finished off with a Cornish coastal pass. And they were mind-blowing, absolutely amazing. And unfortunately, through New Zealand, I had to take the fastest route. So it was mainly roads, but, it was, the scenery was fantastic. South Island in particular was mind-blowing. It was stunning.
So how did you get from the North Island to the south? Because isn't that Wellington, and it's quite a windy, I've heard, a windy patch, when you're flying over, you've got to have a strong stomach. How did you cross over to the next island?
I didn't swim.
No, that's fair.
I ran. I don't swim, but I ran. I think it was 25 miles that day, because that's all I had left of the North Island, and then took a ferry that night, and then started running when that's allowed. Guinness World Record allows you to catch a ferry from one island to the next, and then woke up the next morning, and then obviously continued then through the South Island. So that the ferry crossing is allowed.
How many miles a day on average was you doing?
So the North Island, both Mum and my son were with me, so it was treated a little bit more like a holiday. So I probably did anything between 34 and 38 miles, and just so I could get done and then spend some time with my son at the end of each day, and Mum. And then when we got to the bottom of the North Island, I said goodbye to them, and I then went alone with John, the driver, throughout the rest of the South Island. And it was just like, right, this is it now, time to, the holidays kind of is on hold a little bit, and let's just get this done. So pretty much just cranked out 40 miles every day throughout the South Island then, just to get it done, really.
And who was at you at the end to make sure that you had done it? And was you, with being the Guinness Book of Records, how do they monitor you?
So I had two trackers on. I had a GPS and another one, what is it? Another tracker anyway, just in case one or the other failed. So, and then we needed, like, there's so much that goes into it. It's crazy. The paperwork is just, it's you can understand why, because it needs the proof. But every day had to be videoed and photos taken. I needed witnesses throughout the day. So John, the driver, he was amazing at that. He woke up every morning. He would, I'd be getting ready to go for a run, and John would be looking for witnesses at like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then do the same again when I finished, which sometimes, was pretty difficult because you never knew where you were going to end up. And then,
in a strange country as well.
Exactly, but he was incredible at that. He was quite a charmer, so he really enjoyed that challenge. And then I had, Mum and my son were there, as I said, through the North Island. Mum was an amazing chef, so she cooked for me. And but when they went home, it was just me and John, then the driver, through the South Island. And so bless him, he took on the challenge of driving and then cooking and
finding witnesses.
Two of us. Did you know
John before the challenge, or was it the first time in New Zealand?
No, it was quite poignant because John was a close friend of my dad's, so
Oh,
and a long-term friend. So it was, in a way, it was quite nice to sort of have, to be able to chat with John in the evenings about, memories of dad and the times that they'd shared. So it was almost like, it was dad sort of there in spirit,
yeah.
again, and so that was really, really special. Yeah, and sadly John actually passed away a month ago, so I just want to offer my condolences to his family. He's really sadly missed, but he was an absolute legend. So I'm just so glad that we managed to get to do that, that one last trip. And so yeah, it was quite poignant and special.
Well, it sounds
All
like
the more
he
so.
had an amazing journey as well. 35 days on the road with you, and just
Yeah,
driving and
for a
seeing.
mid 70s, he was just incredible, for what he did, getting up every morning. Like, he was the one that woke me up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, like, time to get up. And and then just the endurance of the day, bless him. And quite often he would meet me at places and he'd be like, Menna, there's a bridge up there you're going to have real problems with. And so, and we tackled that together. So because it became less about the running and more about the challenges that lay ahead of us each day. So it was down to, some of the roads were really dangerous. Bridges weren't pedestrian friendly, the weather, the route, traffic work. So it was all sorts. I mean, the running was a given. That was the easy part. It was all the other bits then that actually got, more difficult as we went on. But yeah,
And
he
what?
certainly helped get through that.
And what was the finish like?
You know what, you envisage it like every day, because you want to finish. And it's that, you imagine the euphoria and everything, as you finish, like the rushing and of all the memories and everything, because I had that through JOGLE throughout. But actually, you know what, it's actually a bit of a little bit of a disappointment, I think, because when you finish, you're in a strange country, and it's quite early in the day as well. So the only people that were there were tourists, and they were just like, what's going on? And also I did this live feed as well, so on my Facebook page, and I told everybody that this is the time I'm going to be finished in the UK and New Zealand, and I got quite a lot of support. And I just remember, just as I got to like a half a mile around the corner from the post, and John was just like, the signal's gonna cut out. And so, I was talking for about waffling on and on in a crazy moment of euphoria and all this business 10 minutes before. And literally my phone, I was just like, I can see it. And my phone went dead, and nobody could hear me or see me. And then the next minute, of course, I just had all these messages going like, oh my God, did you finish? Did you get there?
After all that.
We finished, and John and I went off and had something to eat, and then somebody had kindly paid for a room for me to stay in a hotel right at the end at the post there. So the next, I went to bed, and the next day I just lay there for hours, just like trying to let the brain catch up with the body. And it was quite surreal, just lots of memories and thoughts and what had just happened all rushing at once. So it took me a while to sort of digest it all, but yeah.
I can imagine, after something and being on such a big high, did you have a big come down?
Yeah, it was. When I finished, it was a day or two. I just had to process it all and what had just happened, and then I just missed my son. I just really wanted to. We had a few, like sort of 4 or 5 days, because I had to have a plan B just in case it took me longer to run than I planned. But yeah, so for 4 or 5 days, I just wanted to get home and be with my son. Although we did sort of make our way gradually, so we could do a little bit of the tourist thing as well, because we dashed through throughout the whole of New Zealand. So that was quite nice. But yeah, I mean, and then I got home, and then it was all crazy. People were trying to book me for talks, and this that and the other. And then, of course, the pandemic happened. And then, so that was all cancelled. And literally, I had like I was meant to do the running show and all this, and everything literally just disappeared overnight. So not only, with lockdown, all the races and everything, and on all that sort of stopped, just disappeared. But of course, I was on this sort of post New Zealand thing as well, and then I had to move out of my house. So the 3 months after that were really, they were really hard. I mean, they were for everybody, but it was quite a shock to the system. But now that things have eased, and hopefully it'll stay that way, sort of getting back to some sort of normality again. But they were testing times.
Well, that's sad, because you've done all that and you should be celebrating, like you said, the running show. You should be like, you're doing a lot of Zooms, I take it, and phone calls and stuff like that online. But it's not the same in person, that people can physically talk to you, and you get that buzz as well when people want to talk to you. It's that connection.
That's because I wanted to write a book as well, but it's just even the creative side, because you can only sort of be creative and be productive when you're feeling positive, and well, for me anyway. So when all that sort of stopped, and sort of the creativity went as well, and it was just like, oh my god, it was just enough just to get through every day, really. And people are like, come on, Menna, if you can run the length of New Zealand, you can get through this. And it's like, oh gosh, this is hard now, this is really difficult to, but yes, it was just a case of just getting through. But we all did, didn't we? Some had good lockdown, some had bad, but we've all got through the other side. So onwards and upwards now, isn't it?
Well, upwards with you, because recently you've just done another challenge in Snowdonia.
Oh, it wasn't Snowdonia. I did Sherwood Forest.
I've seen on your Instagram you have been up Snowdonia recently, because I've seen a picture of you up there.
Yes, I've been doing quite a bit of recceing up there for the Paddy Buckley round. So a friend of mine who was aiming to do it was like, do you want to come along and join me on some recce? He's like, yeah, if it involves being up in the mountains, then absolutely. So I've been enjoying a lot of that, and certainly it's something that I'd like to do next year as well. But it won't be a fast time. It'll just, because I haven't got mountains in my legs, I've just got road running legs at the minute. But certainly Paddy Buckley is something that I'd like to do next year, amongst other things.
Yeah, the Sherwood one you did, that was 100 miles. You did that in one day.
So I did it in 22 hours, 34 minutes. But, as I say, we're sort of getting through the end of lockdown, and just like, I need a big kick up the arse. So looked at the races and what was going on, and I was like, what is it that I really feel like I can get my teeth into? And I thought, let's just go for the 100 mile. And I don't know, we're near fit enough for it, or so I did, or so I thought. And I haven't done anything more than 40 miles in one day. So I thought, let's just go for it, see what happens, and if I finish, I'll be happy. So I was actually, I was quite chuffed to sort of get under 24 hours, because clearly New Zealand's still in my legs. So that was really, it was a good experience. I really, really enjoyed it as well, but now I'm happy with that. So that's given me my confidence back as well.
But it sounds like as well, between New Zealand and the Sherwood, have you been doing, what average mileage have you been doing? Have you been out during lockdown?
Well, we had here in Wales the 15-minute rule, so you couldn't go any further than 15 minutes drive way. So literally it was just a bit of a hamster's wheel, sort of leaving. I moved out of my house and in with my boyfriend and his 2 kids. So there were 5 of us, because it was me and my son as well. I should point out the reason why I did that was because Mum lives with me and she's over 70, so I wanted to keep her isolated. Where he lives, it's sort of a lovely little town. So it was a case of just running from the door and doing the same route every day, and it just got a little bit sort of mundane and a bit boring. When I train, usually I mix it up all the time, different trails, different variations of intensity, etc. Whereas that was sort of a bit like Groundhog Day. So really it was only doing sort of 25 miles through lockdown. And then it's been gradually creeping up. So probably only got to about 40 miles on the lead up to the 100-mile race. But there's no point really increasing the intensity until I know I've got something to sort of, lock on to and work towards. But I got to about 60 miles before New Zealand anyway, because as a mum and a self-employed dog groomer, it's enough to sort of juggle, But I spend a lot of time on my feet as well, and that's key. When you're a natural runner.
True.
On feet.
But what about core work? We hear a lot about it's good to have a strong core. Do you do anything other than just running?
Yeah, so I do a lot of circuit training. So I do that twice a week, and then yoga as well, although I haven't done it since before lockdown. But definitely those two, just to mix it up a bit. Those are in my training program as well.
And what on a long runs, what do you take in? What are you, a gel person, or do you like homemade flapjacks, or what do you consume when you're doing these long runs?
Never gels. Gels are really bad for me. I remember they did the Cardiff Half a couple of years ago, and they were handing out free gels, and I didn't even need it, and I just took the gel and had the most horrendous stomach cramps, thereafter. Yeah. So no, I just keep it real food, because it's something that you look forward to eating. And I find that the body craves certain things. So like if I want citrus fruit, I'll eat it. If it's to hand, I'll eat citrus fruit, or salt, crisps, whatever. Just listen and just get in tune with your body, really. But yeah, I think real food is something that you look forward to eating.
Do you not take it out with you? So like you were saying, even when you do a 25-mile run, do you take anything, or are you so trained? I've had a previous runner on an episode who does trail running. She can go out and do a marathon and not take anything in. She's trained herself. And are you the same?
I'll probably go 20 miles without food, and then take on very little water depending on the temperature. But that's just how I am, really. I don't actually drink gallons of water anyway. But with if it's a marathon I'm doing, then I'll probably take out a snack bar. But otherwise anything over that, then it's just sort of taking on food little and often, really, just to keep the energy levels up.
Yeah. What's your favourite race?
Favourite race so far? I get asked that a lot. It's got to be the Nantararian Silver Trail, which is near Aberystwyth, so mid Wales.
Yeah.
It just ticks all the boxes for me. It's got a bit of woodland, it's got a bit of mountain, and the people that organise it are awesome as well. So they're really good friends of mine. And it's also around my dad's birthday. So it just feel like when I'm doing that race, I just feel at my closest with dad, so it just ticks all my boxes, and I love it. I love that race.
Do you think like the long distance running that you do, like the 100 miles and that, do you think that should be in the Olympics?
Yeah, I think definitely in the last few years, people have been doing some incredible things, and I think that would be I've not really thought about that, but that's a really good idea, isn't it? I think definitely there's scope for something like that. Yeah. I mean, it gives us oldies, right, a chance to be in the Olympics.
Yeah, no, I just think it's
because it's quite a young sport. It's like there are lots of young sports, but for 40-year-olds, there might be a chance.
Well, no, being honest, it's like I love watching the elites long distance, at the Olympics. I'm just glued, even marathons. I'm just like, when they do the London and it's just elite marathon runners, I was like, yeah, because I just love that. With an ultra, the distances like yourself, Brendan, and others that I know that do, it'd be just interesting to follow you guys and just see what, be part of that journey with you. It's hard to picture, you running 100 miles in 22 hours. All I keep thinking is, how do you do it? You must be a robot.
There is an element of it when you have to treat your body like a machine, because, what you put in, you get out. Definitely. You've got to think I don't want to sound like it's big-headed, but certainly when
No.
you're doing those distances, especially on a day-to-day basis, you've got to treat it like a machine. You've got to think about what you eat, how you treat your body, how the recovery, everything about it, and then you get in tune with it as well. So you start listening to niggles and know how to fix that. But yeah, it's there's definitely an element of that.
So I've got you thinking now, Olympics, yeah. So when you're back to normal and, with the right people, bring it up. What? So you never know unless you ask, What's next for you, Menna? What's next for you?
Okay. So I think with everything that's going on this year, and the likelihood of, there's certainly lots of lockdowns happening locally here. So I'm going to just concentrate on next year. And so one of the things that I'd like to do is to go for the FKT, for the Welsh Coastal Path, which is 860 odd miles. But I'd like to go for the fastest female time for doing that. So that's the first thing. I've got Ultra Romania race in August. I've been invited to go out to do that, which would be epic, because I would never think to go to Romania on a holiday, but to actually run it, and what a way to see a country as well,
Amazing.
So there's that, and there's the Paddy Buckley round, which I'd like to do, and then the year after that I've got my eye on a country, but with everything that's going on the way that it is at the minute, I just have to sort of keep that idea floating. I've already applied through the Guinness World Records to do it, so it's the stepping stones have started and they're in place, so we'll see what happens now.
Oh, I'm excited. So another country to run across. I like this.
Yeah.
See, yes. My idea for the Olympics is getting higher now. Sod the 100 miles. We need going across the world, To round this up, Menna, for anyone that's thinking about running, what advice would you give them?
I would say, as mentioned before, mix it up. Don't just go out and do the same route every day, day in, day out. Do things that inspire you. Get out amongst the trees, into your local woodlands, in the parks, get off the road, mix it all up, because trail running actually, will make you a stronger runner. I always say that less as well, and it just mixes up the different muscle groups, so you're not pounding on the same joints, etc. Get out and look on social media. There are so many people out there doing some incredible things right now, so just try and get some sort of inspiration in that way. And just keep focused, stay determined, fix on that race that you think that you want to have a go at doing, and go for it.
I hope you enjoyed this week's Running Tales podcast. Please, please, please leave us a rating or review wherever you listen. It helps other people find us so they can listen too. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week for another Running Tale.